Hi, Stuart Bruce here, and I am the Spare Time Property Investor. In these podcasts, I'm going to share tips, tricks, and lessons that I've learned and will hopefully help you, especially if you're still working the 9 to 5. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Spare Time Property Investor podcast. Today is an interview episode, and I'm joined by Abbie from Nala Coaching. She talks about her background as a chemical engineer, how she transitioned out of her day job within 18 months. So 18 months from when she started in property to the point where she left the day job, which is absolutely incredible, and what she's up to now. So, I really hope you enjoy the episode. As ever, if you do, please like and subscribe. Please share it on your socials. It really helps other people find the podcast, and it's really, really appreciated. But for now, that's enough of me waffling on. Here is the interview with Abbie. So thank you so much for joining me, Abbie. First off, it would be great if you could introduce yourself and let us know what you're up to in property.
Yeah, hi Stuart. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm Abbie. So I've been a property investor for about 7 years now. Mainly started out with buy-to-lets, moved a bit into HMOs, and then some land development. And more recently, I've also been doing some property mentoring and coaching alongside that through my company, Nala Coaching.
Lovely, that's great. So it's 7 years. So I assume at the start you were also doing it alongside your day job, which I understand you were a chemical engineer. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So a bit different.
Yeah, a bit different. So, so talk us through how you managed to balance that, which sounds quite, serious, kind of very, well, I'd have thought technical and difficult job, and then doing the property alongside that. So how did that work at the time?
Yeah, it was definitely not always easy, to be fair. It was quite a full-on job. And actually, when I sort of got really into starting property investment, I was actually on shift as well. So I was trying to do different shifts, different sleep patterns, and
Oh,
then go
wow.
and fit in viewings and offers and all of that. So it wasn't always smooth sailing, that's for sure. But I think one of the things that really helped me, I've always been quite a planner, like a diary planner. And I think I was quite good at being strict with myself and allocating time. Definitely sort of used to just, if I could sneak into a meeting room for half an hour and just do some quick offer calculations or calls and things, I would do that sort of alongside the job, and then otherwise just really block out as much time as I could to focus on property.
Okay, so that's how you managed to do it. So you blocked out time, you made as much use as possible of the time you had available to you, and you were kind of quite strict. So how long do you think it took you to go from first getting your first buy-to-let, for instance, all the way through to the point where you were thinking, oh, actually now I'm good. I can, think about leaving my job or working my way to the point where you can start planning to reduce your hours and leave or that sort of thing. How long do you think it took?
Yeah, so it took 18 months from when I bought the first buy-to-let to actually leaving the
Oh,
job.
wow.
Which but I was really not enjoying my job, so I was very motivated to try and kind of do everything as quickly as I could to get out of it. And I think one of the things that helped with that was obviously alongside sort of blocking out time and being quite disciplined about it, was I was really quite thorough going through just my finances and what I was really spending and trying to minimize it as much as possible so that I could kind of have an aim for, I know a lot of people call that a financial freedom figure, that I knew I could get to and just make that as low as possible. So I chose to move out of where I was living and move into cheaper accommodation to try and lower that figure and things, just to try and speed it up because, yeah, like I said, I was not enjoying my job
No.
that much. So I didn't want to leave.
I'll tell you what, it's such a great thing to kind of raise, really, is that people have they have a figure in their mind, and that might be sorry, they have a figure in mind which might be their monthly income or whatever. But when you think about it, there's lots of things you could do without. There's lots of luxuries we all have. There's little things that we just kind of get into the habit of paying out for. But actually, sometimes if you look at all of those things, you can reduce your outgoings massively. So, and it sounds like you did exactly that.
Absolutely.
But to the
Yeah.
extent where you moved into a cheaper property and everything, that's real commitment.
Yeah, well, if you're not getting much sleep on shift and you really want to leave, it's probably
Well,
something
no.
you'd consider.
So when you were kind of getting to the point, then I assume you weren't enjoying your job before you kind of thought about property, but did you think about other options in terms of replacing your income or kind of getting to the point where you could leave your job?
Well, I looked into other jobs generally within the same field. But I remember reading lots of sort of job adverts and just, when you can read through between the lines and just see that they're sugarcoating it all. And I was like,
Yeah,
no, I know exactly what that's going to be. It's going to be the same thing,
yeah,
just sort of phrased differently. So I think I kind of knew at that point that I needed to do something completely different. And I was actually just really lucky. One of my friends recommended that I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and before then I'd never thought about property investment at all, really. And then I read that, and kind of, as much as some of the books quite controversial maybe in what he does, but just the foundation of it, of being something that we just don't learn about finances and
absolutely.
about the option to invest in assets. I just completely opened my mind to it, and I was sort of sold from there.
It's such a life changer for so many people, and like you say, you're just not exposed to it when you're younger. People don't get taught it in school or anything like that. So yeah, it's a real eye opener
Exactly.
for so many people. It's amazing actually the amount of people who say, yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that was the book, that was the one that kind of changed everything. It's incredible, really. So
Yeah, it's amazing. And that, yeah, sorry.
no, 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 no. Yeah, I was kind of moving on too quickly. Yeah, no, it is. It's an incredible story, and yeah, you kind of feel like it should be given to kids on the way out of the school gates or something like that. But that won't happen. Um, so, so you went from reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. You didn't really understand or kind of have any awareness of it before. Did you do any kind of training following on from that about property, or did you just jump in and get your first bite of that?
No, I very much did training. I signed up to one of these really big, expensive, full package training courses, because I mean, at that point I was only a year out of university, so I was very much in the mindset of, you kind of need training and education and everything before you start. And I still agree with that to some extent, but I think, yeah, I ended up doing a big training package with hundreds of other people, and it was packed full of great information, but there wasn't that much one-on-one, or kind of the support and guidance outside of these big 3-day weekends. So I think, unfortunately, I mean, I got loads from it, wrote as many notes as I could, and then got out there and started putting it into action, because I think, as I said, I'm really motivated to leave my job. But of the other people that I know who went and did that training, I don't think there's a handful that I know who've actually implemented it and kind of
Yeah.
gone forward with it.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, you can read books, you can go to training, but if you don't do it, then well, you're not going to get anywhere, are you? So it is all about
Yeah.
implementation. But what about the people you met there? Have you kind of built a network from the training you did?
Yeah, certainly. So I have a couple of people that I'm still very much in touch with, who did the training with me. But the other thing that it did give me was contacts in sort of accountants,
Oh,
mortgage brokers, that sort of people, who, because I had no sort of previous experience, or I didn't even know anyone who did property investment sort of professionally. I had no really way to find those people initially.
yeah,
So it did give me those contacts to start that as well and create a team around me.
that's great. That's great. So, I mean, that is one of the things that people often say about trading. I think sometimes people maybe aren't as honest as you in terms of other people they were doing their training courses with, um, but often people say about the real benefits was the networking. So it sounds like it was a real benefit. And I do wonder sometimes, maybe if you dug into it with other people, they would be able to point to a lot of people who didn't end up doing a lot after spending out quite a lot of money on the training course. But that's people's choice, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. So going back then, so you thought to yourself, not enjoying the job, I need to do something. You read Rich Dad Poor Dad. You did some training. You were very committed. You blocked out your time and everything like that. But what emotions and stuff were you going through when you were kind of thinking about stepping out of your day job? Were you excited, scared? Did you have, kind of concerns about what was going to happen? I don't know. Talk me through it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was quite a daunting prospect. I mean, obviously, like I mentioned, I sort of signed up for this big training pack. I didn't even have any money at that point. I'd only been working for about a year, so I actually ended up taking out a loan to do that. So initially, straight away, it was sort of, am I even doing the right thing? Am I absolutely crazy? And certainly, my sort of family and upbringing was all very kind of, the traditional path of, get as many qualifications as you can, get a good job that lasts for life, and then, retire on a nice pension. And kind of, it just felt really bizarre to be completely questioning that and going with something totally different. And I think, yeah, for even when I ended up leaving my job, and actually going into property full time, I think it took about 2 or 3 years before my mum stopped calling it a career break.
Okay,
Sort of.
that's
So
interesting.
I had, yeah, I mean, whilst she was definitely supportive of me, I think it was hard for her to process. So I definitely had people around me who were sort of really questioning what I was doing. But I was very lucky that my now husband, but boyfriend at the time, he was very, very supportive. I mean, he did the training with me, and kind of went alongside me with it, even though he's military, so his job, well, didn't mean that he could help me actually implement it, but he was always there supporting me. So I was lucky in that I had very supportive people around me, but definitely felt a lot of fear that I was just kind of throwing money away and had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, well, and I suppose sometimes people have to see the like the fruits of your labor to think actually, it's working. It is something that's worthwhile pursuing. And I think like you and like well me as well. I mean, I had no background in it or understanding, and you were lucky enough to read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and if your parents hadn't read that and hadn't been exposed to it and kind of got their head around it, it's quite understandable why they're a bit concerned and everything. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, absolutely. So going back, so you started off with buy to let by the sounds of it. So was that a advice from the training you had to kind of start small and then progress?
I suppose the training sort of had all the various different strategies as options, and I think the main thing that they mentioned, which really spoke to me about buy to let, was that I could learn on sort of the smaller numbers. I could go
Yeah,
and buy a property that wasn't going to cost as much. It wasn't going to cost as much to refurb. If something went wrong, it wasn't going to be a massive disaster. Well, it might be a disaster, but it's not going to be as big as, say, if I went for a much bigger, more expensive strategy. And like I said, I didn't have any money of my own, so I was right from day one using investors' money. So I knew that I needed to do those smaller projects, kind of learn on the smaller numbers, and basically take a bit less risk with it. And then also be able to add the value in the properties that meant that I could then get all of that money back when I refinanced it to give back to the investors, or potentially, if they wanted to keep investing, go and invest in the next property. But it needed to be something that could turn over quite quickly,
yeah,
as opposed to a long term wait for capital growth to take effect sort of thing.
absolutely. So how was that raising those initial kind of that initial money from investors, especially as you were kind of going through training, but you hadn't done this before?
Yeah, I think I had to get my head around it to start with, because I definitely didn't want to be going to people sounding like I was begging for money, or
Yeah,
it had to get my head in the right space where actually I was offering people an opportunity, and that obviously had to come from a place of confidence that I knew what I was doing. So I spent a long time creating sort of investment proposal documents, which went through everything, the whole theory of what I was doing, really drilled down into why I was doing it in that area with those sort of properties, and lots of facts and figures. I mean, obviously being from a chemical engineering background, loved a good fact or a figure. They're
yeah,
all
I'm
about the
sure.
sort of
Yeah,
the numbers and the data. Yeah, so I sort of tried to collate all of that to be able to present to people as this is a serious business. I'm not just messing around. I mean, I was 24, 25. So I kind of, I had to really convince both myself but also other people that it was very serious. I knew what I was doing, and that their investment would be safe with me. So yeah, like I said, made this document, and then sort of again tried not to give it to people in a way where I was saying, oh, here's what I'm doing, please can I have some money. It was more, here's what I'm doing, what do you think? Have you got any feedback? Do you think this document's good? As opposed to, asking directly for money. I think
Yeah.
it was a different way of doing it, which helped.
So that's, I mean, it sounds like you did a great job in terms of presenting it in such a way that it looked professional, and they gave, they had confidence in you. But did you have any knockbacks? Did you kind of go to the first person and they said, "Oh yeah, no, have a load of money," or was it a bit more tricky than that?
Yeah, not quite, no. Definitely was. I tried to send it to quite a few people to genuinely get their feedback, as well as potentially, well, they might be interested. But yeah, there were certainly a lot of people who kind of replied saying, "Oh no, looks great," or gave me some constructive criticism on it, but just said, it's not something I'm interested in right now, or whatever. I didn't have any sort of serious knockbacks where people were like, what the hell are you doing? What is this? At least people were nice to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think definitely it wasn't as plain sailing as the first people I gave it to were interested. But again, I just sort of thought, well, who else might they know? So even if they said they weren't interested, I was trying to ask them, well, actually, do you know anyone who might be interested that you wouldn't mind passing this on to? And kind of tried to grow out from there, because I was quite young. Most of my friends didn't have money, so even though I'm sending it to those nice positive people who'd give me good feedback, they themselves didn't have any finance ready to invest either, so it sort of ended up going to their parents, or
Yeah.
friends' parents or something, and that was where it really started to gain a bit more traction.
And I think that's a great tip. If somebody's saying, no, I can't do that or whatever, it doesn't mean to say that I don't know somebody who might be able to, or, they'd be happy to pass it
Oh,
along.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Grow the network, yeah,
And
through them.
especially as you presented it, really professionally and everything like that, I'm sure they had the confidence to think, well, maybe my aunt, maybe my mum, whoever, might have, some cash that they want to, make more of than sitting in a bank doing nothing for them, and things like that. So yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So do you have a particular investment area you kind of focus on, or do you just kind of, whatever?
Yeah, so I mean, it depends. Each sort of strategy that I've used has always had a slightly different area that I've looked in. So for buy to let, I've always focused up in the northwest. Like I said, I was looking for those cheaper properties that I could kind of turn around that bit quicker. So that obviously worked that bit better up there. But then when I moved into HMOs, I grew up around Cambridgeshire, so I was living around there at the time, and I wanted to be a bit closer. I wanted to be a bit more involved, because obviously the strategy is a bit more complicated. So HMOs have always been around here, and same with the land developments. Again, that's always been, I want to be close to them. So yeah, either sort of around there, southeast. Or actually, I'm currently, my husband's in the military, and we're currently out in Kenya. So we're
Oh
currently
wow.
buying some land out there to do a development out there. So yeah, sort of wherever I've been for those more complex strategies, I've wanted to be closer.
That's interesting. Oh, so are you in Kenya now, or?
So right now I'm in the UK. I've
Okay.
popped back,
I was going to say,
but
what time is it? You're very convincing.
the time difference isn't that big.
Is
It's
it not?
it's
Okay. I
only
suppose
we're only it's only
it's straight above. Yeah.
yeah, only 2 hours ahead. But no, we're living over there at the moment.
Oh wow, that's
So
cool.
that's yeah,
That
that's where
must
we're
be
based
that must
currently.
be that must be a great experience, being, in Kenya.
Oh yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. And I mean, as much as it's been difficult not being able to travel sort of backwards and forwards with the pandemic, it's actually been a lovely place to be stuck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's been quite nice.
Yeah.
And obviously amazing that I did make the choice years ago to go into property investment, because it's meant I can still
Yeah.
manage all of that, and kind of still do that from wherever I am. So being in Kenya hasn't stopped me from
And that
being able to make money through property.
that's one of the huge benefits, isn't it? Separating yourself from the actual, income generation. You can be anywhere. You don't need to sit in a particular office in a particular town. You can be anywhere and, make things happen.
Exactly. Yeah. As
That's
long as
great.
you've got the right team,
Yeah,
definitely.
well, that's it. Yeah, that's great. That's really interesting. And like I say, so powerful, when you think about what opportunities it gives you, once you've got a few. So yeah, really great. So going on now, so you've made this decision a few years ago, to quit the day job, invest in property, and you built up a portfolio, but now you're also coaching people. So talk me through, that side of things.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that really came about because sort of a couple of years after I'd kind of left my job, and people would kind of see that what I was doing was working, and giving me that freedom and kind of lifestyle that I wanted. I did have quite a few people approach me and kind of say, oh, how does it work, what do you actually do, and how does it all go? So I kind of ended up informally mentoring people, to start with. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed being able to provide people with that support and kind of, you know, pointing them in the right direction. So I sort of thought, well, actually, let's do this as a separate business that I can actually, you know, professionally start to help people as well. So that was where it all came from. But like I said, with my training that I'd done, I'd really noticed the lack of the individual support, and guidance outside of these sort of big training groups. So I didn't want to do that sort of training. So the whole focus of Nala coaching and why I set it up was to try and provide much more one-on-one assistance. So I do run group online courses, but even the group online courses come with some time that is just one-on-one with me, because I just think that makes, I mean, certainly it's how I learn. I need that one-on-one support, but I think it's really valuable for other people.
I think one of the other things as well that I always think with big training courses is once you've received the training and you're done, where's the accountability? Because you can turn up, you can, you know, sit in a room or sit on Zoom calls or whatever, take in all the information, have, you know, booklets or whatever. But then if there's no one-on-one or accountability or follow up, I mean, it's quite easy to let life kind of, you know, click in and you're back to doing the day job, and you know you're busy, so it doesn't happen.
No, absolutely. And I think I was just really lucky that I ended up making friends with one of the other girls on my course, and we would have weekly calls where we just basically said what we'd managed to do the last week and what we were going to do the next week. And even though, you know, if we didn't do it, it didn't matter, but it was just someone checking in to make sure, you know, and just, you know how it is, if you've got that deadline and that call, you're going to be like, oh, well, I want to be able to say I've done something. So you go and quickly do something, even if it's not all of it. And that made such a huge difference. That's the kind of support that I want to be able to provide people with, as opposed to, you know, alongside all the knowledge and the theory as well. But I think it's invaluable to have that accountability.
That's great. And I'll make sure the your site's linked in the description so people can go and check it out. Do you have any
Oh, great, thank you.
Do you have any webinars or any kind of content that people can go and check out?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm actually running a free challenge at the moment called Property Investment from Scratch, and it's in my Facebook group. So the Facebook group is the Women's Property Investment Community UK. And in there, it's just 4 days of trying to deliver content that will help people to actually take action and take those first steps, from potentially not having any experience or you know, having done anything in property, to setting themselves up so they are ready to invest. So that's actually running at the moment. So you can find a lot of other sort of advice and guidance in that property Facebook group. But alongside that, go and check out the website as well, www.nalacoaching.com, because again, I have some resources on there, from reading lists to financial freedom calculators to all kinds of resources on there to help people as well.
That's great, cool. And like I say, I'll make sure the links are in the show notes so people can go check it out. So lovely, that's great. Have you got any? You just mentioned reading lists. Have you got a top book or anything like that you kind of go back to or recommend to people, apart from Rich Dad, of course?
Yeah, apart from Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I definitely, if you haven't read, I think that's definitely one to tick off. But another book that I found really great, sort of from a mindset point of view with property, was Life Leverage by Rob Moore. I just think, even, you know, thinking about what your time is worth, and then kind of weighing that up with other, you know, even just getting a cleaner. You know, I don't enjoy cleaning, so I was very justified in having a cleaner when I read that book and realized, well, actually, I can pay someone else to do that same task for less than my time's worth. And it's just a different way of thinking about what you're actually spending your time on. So I really like that book. That's definitely helped me kind of build my business.
That's great. Yeah. No, I read that years ago. It's very interesting, and it does give you that kind of justification for, well, not doing certain things, and you know, getting other people to do
got to
things.
do the things you like.
And if anyone says anything, you just, you know, Rob said, you know, you're allowed to do it, you know.
Yeah, it's a good excuse, isn't it? But no, I think genuinely it's a good theory as well.
No, it's good. It's good. And then do you have any kind of top tools or anything like that you kind of use or advise people to use? Any pieces of equipment or
Yeah.
software?
Well, one of the sort of my favorite things is actually Trello. I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
if you
yeah. I
use
use
Trello,
that. Yeah.
but yeah, I use it to sort of manage when I've got projects ongoing, have them all on their own little card. And I just find it so useful as a way of organizing what I'm doing and keeping track of things. When you've got multiple projects going on, I definitely, I don't want to forget something important. So it's just, yeah, I find that a really, really great tool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people as Asana as well, isn't it? It's quite similar. People use
Yeah,
different ones, but yeah, we use Trello. I really like it. We use it for different projects as well. So you can have separate boards for all the different things you do. So yeah,
exactly.
I
Yeah,
think they're
really
great.
handy. And adding people in from different teams.
And
It's
there's a
great.
free version as well. And you think there's all these kind of incredible free pieces of technology out there. You can pay for the paid version as well, but yeah, that's a great piece of kit. I like that one.
Yeah, and if you're just starting out, you can just start out with the free one and see how you go. Yeah,
Absolutely,
that's good.
absolutely. Then the kind of last question is, if you could speak to your 18-year-old self, what would you say to them?
Yeah, that is a really, really tricky question because I mean, obviously, I'm so glad that I got into property investment when I did. And but looking back, even though I didn't enjoy being a process engineer, being a chemical engineer, um, I loved going to university. I mean,
Uh-huh.
not so much because of the course content, just the lifestyle. So it's really
Yeah.
hard when I think about what would I say to myself. I'd probably say, you know, go for it. Why not? Go and get a great qualification. Go and have a great time. But maybe don't worry about doing the masters, or maybe don't work quite as hard because you can kind of there are other options. And I think I'd just try and tell myself that actually, work out which bits you like and go head for those, work out what it is that I really enjoyed. Because I think a lot of the time, especially, yeah, during uni and then during those first few years of working, I think I focused more on what I felt duty bound to do,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to trying to follow what I actually really wanted to do. And I think, yeah, realizing earlier that actually life is for living, and you only get your one life, so you might as well, you might think it's silly, I can't do that, I've got to go and do the biggest best job or whatever. If you're not going to enjoy it, there's no point. You might as
Absolutely.
well try and do what you really enjoy, and then you'll end up doing it really well, and get your own success that way, define your own success. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's really difficult staying enthusiastic and motivated about something you don't enjoy. So I think that's a really good bit of advice. Would you have listened? That's the other thing. Would you have listened at 18?
um I think like life leverage, I've probably been like, great excuse, I'll just just go enjoy myself. But no, I know I'm joking, I don't think so. I think I would have listened to some extent, yeah, because I think I'd always been sort of brought up one way, as in I go and do that get that qualification, got to have that backup, all the kind of traditional sort of things. And I think there wasn't really anyone saying, oh well, actually you can do it all completely differently, you can do what you like, and make a success of anything if you're passionate about it. So I think I would have listened. Yeah, I might still have done the same thing in the end, but I think I
Yeah,
would have
absolutely.
realized earlier that there were other options.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool. Okay, lovely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'll be checking out what you're up to on Instagram and things like that. But where can other people, find you, follow you, get in touch?
Yeah, certainly. So Instagram is at Nala Coaching. Facebook, like I said, the Facebook group. I'm always on there, so you can join and ask any questions. I know it's called the Women's Property Investment Community UK, but it's open for everyone, so long as you're just as supportive and friendly as everyone else in the group. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so on the Facebook group. But also, yeah, you can email me at contact@nalacoaching.com as well. All those places. And I'd love to
Right.
hear from you.
That's great. Cool. And I'll make sure all of that's available under the description as well. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great to get to know you. But for now, goodbye, and I'll see you again soon.
Thanks very much, Stuart. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have, please leave me a 5-star review to help other people find it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.